Organizations' internal networks are overly permissive and can't distinguish trusted from untrusted applications. Attackers abuse this condition to move laterally through networks, bypassing address-based controls to spread malware. Edgewise abstracts security policies away from traditional network controls that rely on IP addresses, ports, and protocols, and instead ties controls directly to applications. Edgewise allows organizations to analyze the network attack surface and segment workloads based on the software and how it's communicating. Edgewise monitors applications and protects data paths using zero trust segmentation. Visit edgewise.net/Security Weekly to get your free month of visibility. Some restrictions apply. Are you an enterprise dissatisfied with overpriced analytics software that can't keep up with modern data? If so, then GravWell is the solution for you. GravWell is an unstructured data analytics platform for enterprises who demand total data visibility across their network. GravWell lets your security team go beyond the SIM and fuse data sources to correlate and answer questions you didn't know needed to be asked. Go to gravwell.io/Security Weekly for an unlimited data trial and gain uncompromising visibility today. Endgame's converged endpoint security platform is transforming security programs. Their people, processes, and technology with the most powerful endpoint protection and simplest user experience, ensuring analysts of any skill level can stop targeted attacks before information theft. Endgame unifies prevention, detection, and threat hunting to stop known and unknown attacker behaviors at scale with a single agent. For more information, visit endgame.com. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. Some of you have told us even that I can't talk.
Stop throwing them around.
Pickles flying at me. We're drinking pickle juice martinis.
Pickles flying at your face.
I'm not drunk. I just keep tripping over my words. I don't know what it is. It's Amanda's here. You're
just flustered now.
He's overclamped.
Some of you have told us that you're overwhelmed by the amount of content that we distribute. In an attempt to make it a little easier to find what you're interested in, even I did it again. securityweekly.com/subscribe. Go there, find out about our shows, join our mailing list that's associated with that show, and eventually we will email you when we post content that's in your interests. Obviously, there's going to be some participation from you, as we're not like cyber stalking you and automatically know what your interests are. You're going to have to tell us what they are. But, it's trade-off. Amanda Berlin is here. I'm glad we're done with all the formalities because I just want to sit around and talk. I don't know what.
Perfect.
There's way too many formalities.
Perfect.
Amanda, so what do you do? Tell our audience what you're on a podcast.
What do you do here?
It sounds like a really awesome job.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
You recently founded the Mental Health Hackers Organization.
Correct.
Did I summarize all that? Do you want to elaborate?
Pretty much, I have a full-time job. I work at Blue Mirror, a company out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. We do SIM stuff for small companies.
You live in Ohio or something.
I live in the middle of nowhere in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, near Cedar Point is where I usually say. People know where Cedar Point is a lot of the times, or between Detroit and Cleveland.
I'll just pretend I know where that is.
Sure. In Ohio.
Gotcha.
If you know where Ohio is.
Yeah, it's
right.
Cleveland's there.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
I do that for my day job. I also podcast.
Breaking Tech, right?
Yep.
Breaking down security, yes.
Brian's going to be super happy that I wore the shirt.
That you wore the shirt.
Because I was going to wear the one mental health hacker shirt, but I only have one of them.
Yeah, and you got to wear that tomorrow.
I have to wear it on Saturday.
Because you're here for layer 8.
I know.
Not tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow?
Saturday. So
are you just hanging out in Rhode Island tomorrow? I'm all over the place tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of just walking around, yeah. But yeah, so I podcast, and then, let's see here, as of...
You wrote a book?
Yeah. I did. I wrote Defense and Security Handbook. Lee and I were on the show for the first time.
Yes.
Talking about that.
Yes.
That was a couple of years ago, and then I started Mental Health Hackers. The first village we had was at DerbyCon 2018, and then we finally became our official 501c3, official IRS nonprofit thing.
No, hold on. 501c3, is that a nonprofit or a charity?
That is a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit, okay.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a different...
there is a difference between a charity and a nonprofit. Yeah, 501c is...
it's the number that's in the IRS code, which I didn't know that's what 501c3 meant until
You did an amazing job. We were messaging, and I was like, you're doing great.
Oh,
You're doing great.
Fantastic.
You're doing great.
Yeah. There's a whole story with the lawyer. It was interesting. So, I started that after it went so well at Derby. The village that we ran at DerbyCon wasn't under the banner of Mental Health Hackers yet. It was just kind of an idea I had.
Right. So wait, we've never talked about this on the show.
All right,
Because I feel like we've talked about it
Let's
before, but
back up.
it wasn't
Let's
on the
back
show.
up. Yeah.
So, but like, why did you create the Mental Health Hackers organization?
So I started talking about like my own personal issues with mental health. At this point, it's been like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, with going through divorce and like a bunch of stressful stuff that I went through. And I've had anxiety, like super bad anxiety for a long time, went through some depressive states. And I started talking about it on like Twitter and Facebook. And I was surprised at the amount of people that talked like back about it. They're like, oh, I didn't like, you seem so happy. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know you were depressed. I'm like, well, that's the point. So the first keynote I ever gave was at B-Sides Nashville a couple years ago, and it was titled Mental Health and InfoSec, Hackers, Hugs, and Drugs. And I did a whole bunch of medical research on like mental health in STEM, which is surprisingly scary because people in STEM typically have higher IQs, and along with that, we self-medicate a lot, and we also have higher, like scientifically proven higher chances of either being bipolar or having anxiety or depression,
So
other
that's
than the
that's like a thing.
average
That's
population.
Those are like scientific facts,
Yes.
basically, that you were
Yes.
uncovering. Because it's
Yeah.
always something that I think we've joked about in the community. But
No, it's they have full blown studies on it. They did I think it was Berkeley did a study on PhD students, like just and I mean our fields tend to draw in those that don't mind sitting behind a keyboard for 8 to 36 hours or more.
right?
Yeah.
Or
Right.
more.
You know, we don't really socialize as much sometimes. Like I mean, I sit at home for days sometimes. I work from home. I have kids, but you know, like talking to your kids is different than having like
adult
conversations, right?
Absolutely.
And you kind of just get isolated sometimes. And yeah, so I gave that talk, and the response was just way better than I thought it. Like, I don't know if I want to say better. It was way more than I thought it was going to
Sure.
be, with people just coming up saying, you know, thank you for giving this. I didn't realize that there were so many people struggling. And I kind of made it my mission. Like, I never thought I'd be talking about this all the time, first off.
It seems like it was therapeutic for you. though.
Very. Like every time I gave the talk, like if there is, it's recorded several times, because after one person comes up to you and they're like, oh, well, you know, I would have killed myself if I hadn't watched that. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, just like gives you goosebumps. Like,
Yeah.
what do you say? This is
It
just
like
a
puts
very
the mission,
holy
the mission
crap,
on you.
right? Yeah, I was just trying to like air my dirty laundry, I guess.
Yeah. It's not dirty laundry.
I mean,
Stop.
I
not
could
dirty.
go on. Yeah.
It all depends on which part she's talking about.
Yeah,
whether
you're
it's dirty or
right.
not.
You're right. And so I kind of like after the first person said that, I'm like, well, I'm gonna submit this to everywhere, because usually you like retire a talk, right? You give it either once or twice or whatever, and you're like, well, it's recorded. There you go. Like, you can see my research, you can see whatever. But I thought, you know, if people keep on saying yes to it, and people keep come watching me, fuck it. Like, I'm going to give it as many places as I can, just to maybe help one more person.
Right.
And it kind of snowballed from there, because then I thought, all right, well, if all these people are getting something out of the talk that I'm giving, maybe I could do a workshop. So I submitted for Derby, and they're like, oh, well, you know, that's great. We'll give you like an entire
You had a pretty
space.
large area.
Yeah, we'll give you an entire space. We love the idea. And we went way further. They're like, well, we can either like give you some money, or you can try to do crowdfunding. I'm like, well, the crowdfunding will kind of tell me like what the community wants, right? If they think it's important to them, because I mean, I always think that nothing I'm doing is important, which is another issue. And we raised $7,000. Like,
awesome.
With it, like, quick. Like,
Yeah, without like too much effort.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. Without people knowing this was a thing. And we used all of that money. We booked massage therapists.
Yep.
We bought like snacks. We had a trial table where we did like a weighted blanket, and like the more expensive things that like you don't know if you want to buy or not. Like the little seasonal happy lights.
Does the
for
weighted
seasonal
blanket
depression.
really work?
People love it. Like, I
Yeah.
love it too. But like, there's pictures on our website of people. We have these like air loungers, because I wanted to do bean bags, but logistically, that's a nightmare when you travel.
Mm-hmm.
So we have these air loungers and just people like snuggled up like underneath the weighted. It feels like you're being wrapped in a hug.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's
I
pretty
gotcha.
great. Yeah. And we had people give, and it's all like none of us are certified. None of us are counselor. Like all of us do security like for a living, right? It's more of a peer support group where you
Is it different from any other industry, do you think, Amanda? Or
I don't know. I feel
well, we don't, because we're in the security.
I know,
it's hard to know.
right,
Like,
right.
yeah. Or even IT and technology. I'm sure security being wrapped into that. I mean,
I feel
outside of that.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like the other conferences that I've gone to that have been just technology focused aren't as intertwined, maybe, if I want to use that as a word. Like
I feel like if when I talk to anyone who works in like IT or technology, whether a software developer, systems administrator, or work in security, that these mental health issues that we have, struggles that we have in our careers, struggles that we have in our jobs, and the mental health kind of issues are kind of similar, right? When we step outside of that, I feel like it could be different and vary greatly, but I feel like there's a lot of commonality between technology-related jobs like that in terms of mental health.
Totally. Yeah, they all have the similar, like, sitting behind a keyboard for forever. And
total difference, right?
Yeah.
My wife works in the medical field, and, like, we'll compare notes about our day, and I'm like, I sat behind a keyboard and, like, I wrote some code, like I did a podcast, I sent some emails, like, made some coffee, like talked with my employees, like that was my day, like in a nutshell.
Yep.
And she's like, someone was, like coding on the table, and another patient like walked off on me when I turned my back and all this other stuff, and they were half naked running down the hallway, and that's just like,
that's their day.
I'm like, that was nothing like my day, like nothing.
Right.
So I feel like there are differences between fields.
For sure.
Different mental health issues, right?
Oh, yes.
People work in the medical field, I think, are going to have very different mental health issues than we have, right?
Yeah. And it's just incredible.
Potential.
The amount of
I mean, that's an overgeneralization, but you know what I'm saying,
yeah,
right?
For sure. And I'm sure they have studies too, like from different organizations, right? But I'm not in those, so I can't tell you. It's just amazing to see how many people respond so well to this becoming a thing now. Like, again, never thought I would be here talking about it. Like, I just had my own issues. Like, fuck it, I'll deal with it. I've been dealing with it for forever.
Maybe someone can learn from my experience.
Exactly. And I noticed too, like, we've had quite a bit of suicide in InfoSec too, right? There's been, a decent amount of people that we've seen, and it's a fairly small community, and you learn about this kind of stuff. I'm just like, wow, like, I mean, if you can, like, I could work for years, and if I could save the one person that's going to kill themselves, it's totally worth it.
Totally worth it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's gone way above and beyond what I thought it would ever.
So with that, I mean, I'm of the opinion you're doing so much that is great by sharing experiences and having folks come into the workshop at DerbyCon and share their experiences about what worked for them and how they struggled, and just building a community and a bond that maybe their story could help someone else. But I've also heard there are folks that aren't very appreciative of what you're doing.
You're right.
And say that maybe you're hurting more than you're helping. I don't.
Well, you alluded to it. You're like, none of us are mental health professionals. We're
and we put that out there.
Yeah,
right.
We're security
Definitely
people.
put that out there.
Yeah.
So I kind of liken it to AA.
I was just gonna say it's very similar to AA, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're just a bunch of people that like, and it's even better because we work in the same field, right? If this is for hackers and security professionals, we work in the same field, and we're just sitting around talking. And you know what? It helps a lot of it. I haven't heard anyone that's like sitting around talking with us about these issues going, no, that didn't help me at all, right?
Right.
Sharing common problems in the same field is a huge thing. And I liken it to, like, when I talk to, like, my neighbors or when my friends come over, if they're in a different field, you don't have that, like, you got to talk about things outside of work, right?
Yep.
To have a bond with them. Like, maybe they like Star Wars, or I make cocktails and we talk about but we can't share, like, the struggles that I've had.
Oh, man, that SQL database that I tried to configure the other day.
Right? I'm like, detection lab won't freaking work on my workspace. Like, God damn it, was my vagrant scripts on. And it's not just the technical thing; it's the whole aspect.
It's the whole package. Right?
It's a very different career from if you're going to be someone who cuts down trees, right? And actually, someone in our state actually was killed on the job, and I'm sure there's I feel bad for his family and all the people he worked. Like those are different issues from what we deal with, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So to those people, like they can have their opinion. That's fine.
Yep.
I just can say I have at least saved 4 lives that I know of doing what we're doing with my volunteers and our board and everything. So
medical professionals or not, like
your argument's invalid.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah, you shared a story.
Right?
You shared a
Support
story.
doesn't have to come from a it
Yes.
can
Right.
come from a mental health professional.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
But if it can come from peers, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm giving a talk at Black Hat and GERCON this year. It's going to be the same. It's like a follow up to the talk that I've given before. And I go into some of the research that I've found of, like, there's these people that are way smarter than I am doing all of this mental health research, saying how what the benefit of peer support is, because the benefits outweigh even the slightest potential risk that they've found. So I'm just going to take that to heart because I feel like percentages are kind of in our favor.
I want to talk about tips for people in our field.
I heard something else completely different. Wow.
I had 3 tips. We don't necessarily have to like run through the list, but I want to.
So did that chick from Total Recall. What?
That's right.
Wait, what?
I want to put it in,
Total Recall. Here we go.
just in the context of these 3 things really helped me, right?
Sure.
And I've gone through fits and starts of various stages of mental health in varying severities across my career of almost 20 years now in technology and mostly in security, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of difficult. I don't know if they're any difficult from any other field, right? I don't want to paint that picture, right? But there are
Doesn't matter.
struggles that we go with, right? Working from home is one thing that we do a lot. I think the number of hours in which we work, even though largely we love what we do. I mean, I love what I do, right? And I like putting in the extra hours, but oftentimes in your career, right, you're forced to put in extra hours where you're like, man, I don't know if I really just want to work for the next 24 hours straight. There are other times where you're excited about stuff and you're working for the next 24 hours straight, and that's good. So these are kind of come from my experience, right? The first thing, and this is my more recent experience, is I'm realizing that having a really nice home office I think speaks volumes to my mental health, the mental health of others, around me, that I first and foremost create a separate space in the house to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And there's a lot of reasons for this, right? 1, you got to avoid distractions. 2, I think you as a security professional, to manage that work-life balance, you're probably going to have to work from home, right? And it's a great luxury that we have, I think, that like if you're a nurse, pretty hard to work from home, right? If your job is to take care of patients, you got to in our field, we can remote into anything and write code from wherever. Like it doesn't really matter, right? So working from home is an option. What I also have found is that getting some work time in at home, where I don't have to come in here to the studio, I can wake up early, put in a couple hours of work, and then shift my time, right? I know I got to leave early to go take care of a family thing, or like this week I'm taking tomorrow off because it's, my son's birthday. So, I've woken up early, stayed up late. And I've noticed when I do that, I don't want to be sitting at the kitchen table. I don't want to be sitting in bed with my laptop. I don't want to be in the middle of the living room with all the kids and dogs, running around. That creates stress and anxiety for everyone, right? Everyone's like, oh, dad or mom's on a conference call. I got to be quiet, right? Or I got to worry about noise interfering, like the dog's barking and I'm doing a podcast, right? Like that's...
I remember those days.
Right. And we did the podcast from my house for a number of years, way more years than we've
Rocco,
been here.
stop licking your nuts.
Right? Rocco is still kicking. He's 14. He's old.
Wow.
We're taking care of him. He requires a lot of care, but he's...
Do you lick... Never mind.
No.
Not in studio.
No, not in studio.
Right.
So, now I went over the top with my latest home office. So I did a computer reshuffling. I built a ridiculous computer. I have 3 I don't even know what I'm going to do with 3 monitors. There's like a 34-inch monitor and 2 27-inch monitors beside.
But you'll find something.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't happy with 1. I went to 2, and I'm like, you know what? I can do 3 because my video card will support it. That's awesome.
And I have room.
So therefore,
Why
I have to have
not?
3 monitors, right? And my kids like it too because they get to play games and watch movies and videos and I got 5.1 surround sound. Like I'm really, and I think it kind of speaks to having you should have a hobby outside of tech. But sometimes I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to create this workspace in my house. It's going to be fun to build, and that is helping with my own mental health, right?
Yep.
I bought backlit LEDs for the back of my monitors just because, like, it's fun, right?
And so you're talking about the home office. Not everybody works from home and so forth. So I'd one up and maybe add to that is that make your workspace comfortable.
Yeah.
Surround it with some things that are acceptable for the office that you love.
Comfy chairs.
I'm glad that you said acceptable for the office. Yeah.
Like, if you've got knickknacks and stuff that you do for Legos, and put them in your workspace. Decorate your workspace, because
my unicorn that Genevieve gave me at B-Sides, because I put in a ridiculous request for unicorns, duct tape, and Vaseline as my speaker request. That's on my desk.
Everyone should have a unicorn in their cube or their office.
And
why not?
Yes.
My reasoning behind that is that I seem to remember reading a study that you will spend more time in your office than you will with family, on the weekends with friends, and sleeping.
Yeah.
Make it someplace that you want to be.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, if you think about your average week,
Yep.
That's right. That's exactly what you do.
Yep.
And the other one,
I've really embraced that. Like, I mean, right down to, like, I've got USB hubs, so I don't have to the SD card, like everything to make it easy. And my other thing is that when I'm up at sometimes 5 a.m, right, usually 6, right, or up late, into midnight or beyond, if I'm going to get up and be in that environment, I want it to be the best environment possible. If I'm up at 5 a.m, I'm like, I need to make an SD card. I don't want to be searching around my damn office for an SD card reader. I want all that set up. I want a nice environment. I want my nice headphones and speakers, and be able to pick which one I want. If I want headphones on, if I don't feel like headphones.
A place for everything and everything in its place.
Exactly. Speakers, so I can put it softly, so if I'm listening for kids that are getting up, I can hear them. Like, I'm trying to take everything into account and just making a comfortable workspace, comfy chairs, lighting, the whole thing.
And that's what we want to try and do too, because like all of that works wonders for you, right?
Sure.
Maybe nobody's thought of that or tried it, or maybe somebody did and it didn't work for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, but that's the whole idea around peer support. You just
work for him.
Yeah, you give ideas of what can and cannot work. You're like, this is what worked for me.
Yep.
Don't know what to tell.
Hey, look, some people may be totally comfortable working at the kitchen table, and you know what? If that's not stressing you out and that works for you, totally cool, right?
And to that, one of the things that worked for me, have that really nice office space and have it be a separate space, so that when I walk out of that office, I'm not at work.
Yes. When I worked for
hard
Tenable,
to do.
I worked at home for Tenable for almost 7 years, right? And I built we had the podcast studio / office, right? That was my commute to work. That's where I go to work. And then when I leave the office, shut the door, and then that's work, right? And that's important to have when you work from home to go to work.
I've worked from home for almost 10 years.
Yeah. And you said too, like the hobby outside of work, that's super important.
So that was my number 2.
Lee had a comment in here, didn't you, Lee?
So I was going to say there were 2 things. When you're working at the home office, get dressed for work.
Yeah.
It puts you in a completely different mental frame of mind.
Yep.
I'm really bad at that.
Me too.
Don't take your meals in your office.
Also really bad at that. Yeah.
Lunch.
Like, does it count though if you have like work pajamas and like sleeping pajamas? Because
if you change from your sleeping pajamas to your work pajamas,
is that all right?
Okay.
Okay. So I get dressed.
But that's a subtlety. That's a subtlety that I think is worth discussing. I think as long as you're changing from whatever you slept in to whatever you go to work in, and then when you go to bed, you're changing
or putting
back,
clothes on,
like whatever.
Like if you're putting clothes on.
I mean, then technically you are changing from what
you are. It's
you work
it's
into
a change
what
in
you,
state. Yeah,
right.
You're changing from what you work in to what you go to bed in, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
If you
in that order, from going from no to yes.
Yes.
If
so you can go to work naked.
If you
sleep nudist by day.
Yes.
I can't sleep naked. I don't know what it is.
Professional by night. What?
I don't know. And for guys,
you don't just wear a cape when you're sleeping.
No. For guys, I don't know how guys sleep naked.
Does that work for you, Amanda?
I do. It's just a cape.
There's too many parts like flopping around. I can't do it.
I wouldn't be able to do it.
I can't. But if you do that and you change into something and you go to work, I think that's what's important.
Yep.
Sure. And I failed at that when I went to Tenable for sure.
And Lee, for me, the eating in the office It will depend. Sometimes my wife and I will go out for lunch, which is going to end for the summer, I guess, because the kids are home. We get a little bit of mommy and daddy time. I will sometimes eat at the dining room table, but most of the time I'm eating in the office because I can turn to my personal computer and I can watch something on YouTube.
Okay.
And it just happens to be a vehicle for that.
And I think, Lee, that's the point, right? Is to take a break from work to eat,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm terrible at.
The main computer in this office is my work computer. It's set up for that. So for me, leaving the room gets me to stop working.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I will start working, even though I can fire up the laptop over here and whatever. But the draw of the work computer is too big, and that's just my thing. I think having a break, whether it's you're doing YouTube instead of your day job, fine, but take a mental break.
Yep. And Lee, I find that I get that in two ways. When I'm home, I take the kids to the bus in the morning, and I pick them up from the bus stop in the morning. One, because I have to, because it's the law.
They don't like it when you leave them there.
I know, but in the morning, they get on the bus by 8:15, 8:30ish, and I don't go to work until 9. And my workshop is right next to the bus stop. So I stay in the workshop for a half an hour and do stuff. This morning it was an hour because I got involved in mineral spirits and made a mess. And then when I go to pick them up...
You're not supposed to drink mineral spirits.
Thank you. I'm glad someone would.
But in the afternoon, I have an alarm on my calendar that says to pick the kids up from the bus, but it's a full half an hour early than they actually get off the bus. And I go to the workshop. And I work on something for half an hour.
Number 2, find a hobby outside of tech. No, the fun part is you get to pick, right?
Yeah.
Sports, music, carpentry, whatever.
It shouldn't be InfoSec.
It shouldn't be something outside of it.
Yep.
Like I do InfoSec, right? And I've got a lot of like sub hobbies that are like
me too.
Inside of InfoSec, right? Like I like to build computers.
And they're technology related. A technology related hobby is okay.
Yeah.
Larry got me into like keyboard hacking and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is have at least one hobby that's even outside of tech. Okay to have hobbies inside tech, but have something outside of tech, right? Like my last project was, for example, building a dining room table, right?
Yep.
Like totally outside of tech, other than like watching
Ham
YouTube
radio.
on how to do it, right?
Yeah.
Ham radio.
radios.
Ham radio.
Because you're focused on that, right? It has your full
There you go.
attention.
Yep.
It's super helpful.
But that's
I've-
important too,
I
is
had
to take a break from what you're doing to go do something else and come back to it, and you have a fresh perspective.
One of my former bosses said is exactly the same thing. Get a hobby that doesn't involve technology. And for him it was a hard and fast rule, doesn't involve technology. And he used to rebind and repair books, and not a single tool that he used was made after 1880.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's super cool.
Well, that's like, what is it? Gibbs from that show...
NCIS.
NCIS.
Builds a boat in his basement.
Builds a boat in his basement all the time.
Yep.
That was therapeutic for him. And uses all hand tools to do it.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like
One of my hobbies was building my Christmas display bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I started animating it with computer controlled lights.
I was going to say, then that segues into technology inevitably at some point. Agreed, Lee.
Yep.
And I love it.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Lee, I bought that lighting controller that you told me about from Lightorama, and it's still in the damn box.
Well, I bought the same one, and I finally said, you're not putting it together. So I just bought the board assembled, and now I have like 8 of those controllers and like 96 channels with music and lights, and I think there's a 12-step program for this.
Do you need another one? Because I've still got one in the box.
Is that is that DMX based?
No, it's not. Lightorama has interfaces for DMX, but this is their own system.
Gotcha.
But the cool thing is it uses Cat5 cable.
Yes.
Because we just
DMX
have a little bit, don't we?
like XLR style cables.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
my other thing, the third thing on my list was go on vacation. I sucked at that.
It's so nice though.
But
like,
it is.
I'll go camping in like southern Ohio where I know there's no cell phone signal, because otherwise I'm tempted. I mean, to be honest, I'll still work. I'll still check email. I'll still check Slack. Like, I have to be forced to go somewhere with no signal.
Yep.
And
that's a good point.
Like in the beginning, you kind of freak out a little bit. And you're like, you don't know what to do with your hands. Like it's very.
Paul can find things to do.
I mean, most people can find
our-
things to do with their hands. I'm just
True. Lee?
yeah.
So we went to Antarctica for 3 weeks a couple years ago. Data was $200 for every 20 megabits. I decided I was not going to pay for data, so I was
Not watching any
offline for
Netflix?
3 weeks. I had the DTS for the first 3 days.
Yeah, it's
And
real.
Shelley
Wait,
tells
hold
me
on,
the best
Lee, what-
vacation we ever had.
What? Yeah. What prompted you to go to Antarctica? Like, isn't it cold there?
It was in the mid 40s, so it wasn't that cold.
Gotcha.
And it was a bucket list item that Shelley had wanted to do for her 60th, but couldn't pull it off, so we did it for her Social Security birthday. See, my vacation weapon is Shelley. She's planning at least 3 ahead. We've got 18 months. We're going to Africa. Actually, at the end of October, we're going to Vietnam, and then we got the North Pole coming up in 2021.
Wow, that's amazing.
Do you want to adopt anybody? Like a.
I got room in the suitcase, Amanda.
Yeah. I will say I'm usually really bad at taking vacation. I've carried over vacation for years and years. And
I'm bad at planning vacations.
And
when
how-
Like, I love it when the vacation's happening. I suck at planning them.
How
I've had
about
to
the
force
whole
myself.
unlimited vacation thing? That
Oh, that's a
companies
thing.
give you.
Well, you know why they do that in California? It's
Because
because of the
nobody
regulations.
takes
No.
it.
It's because of the regulations in
Oh.
California. They don't give anyone vacation time. It's some weird thing to get around California legislation.
But what about
Okay.
all the non-California companies?
They just have unlimited vacation.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, if you're like me, like I have a job with unlimited vacation. Don't take it. Like I never
Right.
take that much
which
vacation.
is also a liability thing in that, like, so when I left the healthcare organization, they had to pay me out for all my unused vacation time.
yes.
Which was
Yep.
like 10 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. That's why one reason why they do that in California. They
Right.
don't issue because
Yeah.
at the salaries that people in California make because of cost of living in Silicon Valley, that
They'd
could
go
be a
broke.
big check.
Yeah. Yep.
So we used to have a cap, we still do, a cap of, which ultimately is like 265 hours, and then you lose it for not using it.
Yep.
But that, I think you can get that paid off because our plan is old enough. But yeah, that's very unusual. Now they just have like paid time off, vacation, sick leave, whatever. It's
Yep.
the same.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And it's important to take vacation for your mental health. I mean,
Very.
it's really
Absolutely.
very
for this
for the
year-
mental health of your whole. If you have a family, for your
That
whole
too.
family.
Yep.
What I noticed when we took time off to go to
Yep.
Disney for a longest time in some time, because normally, like, if there's a conference in Orlando, like that was our Disney vacation. As soon as the conference was over, we made stay a day. Like this time,
Yeah.
we were in it for the long haul, right?
Yep.
And it was just a great experience
And
for everyone.
This is the first year in, I don't know, 20 years that I have booked vacation time and have used and gone over every single day of vacation that I have allocated.
Good for you.
Good. Yeah.
We're going camping.
Definitely.
We're going camping in a couple weeks. We're going to Vermont like we normally do. We're doing a 10-day Disney vacation. We're
Now, did you get tickets to Galaxy's Edge?
no.
That's going to be hard.
Yep.
They limit
Yes,
people
it
to
is.
3 hours in the new
What is it?
in
Four.
Hollywood Studios. There's there's one in California in Disneyland that's opened, and then there's one in Orlando in the Disney World.
The new
In
the new Star Wars stuff.
In Hollywood Studios, there's a new section of the park called Galaxy's Edge. It's all
Oh goodness.
Star Wars.
the new Star Wars stuff, and
Yeah.
it's made to be like the city from the movie that's coming out on December 20th. That my 3-year-old makes me watch the trailer
Over
three
and over
times in a
again.
row. Yeah, 3 times in a row. And they're, again, Dad, again. I'm like, I'm kind of tired. Can you release a new trailer sometime soon so we can? I mean,
So-
George
so-
Lucas
so
comes over to my
Paul-
house for dinner. Apparently,
He does.
so
Right. Yeah.
I don't think he
Paul,
has
the
much say
interval in-
anymore on that. But in any case,
The interval at Galaxy's Edge is 4 hours.
yeah, is it 4
Sally's
hours?
going with her buddy Winky next week. They have 8 p.m. to midnight down in California.
Wow.
They
and
wanted
what's
to know
the-
if I was good with it. I said, go for it. Have a ball.
I think the wait times is just to talk about your mental health, like stress me out. If you want to do this, like the Millennium Falcon ride, what is that called? There's a name for it. Has like 6 seats.
That's it.
That's it. And if like you go with 3 people, right? You're in the thing with 3 strangers, and the attendant picks which seats you sit in. So like if your dream like mine, is to sit in the pilot seat and put the Millennium Falcon into the hyperdrive.
Yeah.
You might be in one of the rear seats and not be able to do that. And you got to imagine the wait times on a ride with only 6 people that can ride at one time.
Can't they just make it all VR? And then everyone can do it. Just like
Even
put 50 people in at once.
It's not the same though. I mean, you actually get to sit in.
I guess.
I mean, that's really cool.
It's
and then you get to build your own lightsaber. Now it's $200.
It's gonna
everything
be
costs
and
but only
The
15
special
people
ones.
at a time.
So Paul,
can do
it's
it.
Disney. It's going to be more than 6 people at a time. It's going to be 6 people in a shuttle thing.
And then 50 of those.
Yeah,
Right.
Not maybe not 50, but at least 12.
Right.
Hopefully
something
they
like that.
expand it.
Yeah.
You hope.
They're
In
gonna
any
be
case.
lost.
Vacations are important.
Yes.
Very.
Yes, they are.
Yes. And
And-
don't bring your damn laptop on vacation if you can all help it.
No.
That's hard.
It is. It is.
It's so
so
hard.
You know
When
what?
we- when we do-
That's a great point. And just personal experience, I find shorter vacations, it's really hard to let go of the technology.
Mhm.
But that longer 10-day, because we did the 10-day,
Like you
vacation.
said, we detox.
Right? Like the first
Yeah.
2-3 days, you're still like, and then after that, you're kind of like, you know what? Nothing's that important.
Yeah.
I can put it down and deal with it when I get back.
I
And then you find that once you've unwound from those first few days of vacation, it's easier to put the technology down and just, in our case, enjoy Disney.
I have found
question.
that the Disney. Sorry, Lee, real quick. The
ahead,
Disney
go ahead.
vacation and even our Vermont vacation.
Oh, you can't put your phone down in Disney because you
well,
have to
yeah,
have the
I mean,
app.
it's
but
different.
yeah.
But like, we get back to the hotel and I won't turn on my laptop. I don't bring the work laptop because it's vacation.
Yep.
I don't turn on I turn the personal one like once, maybe to see if we can get fast passes, or
Yep.
I need to check my email, or I need to print our boarding passes or something like that. Ridiculous. But when we go to Vermont, we drive, so I can bring whatever I want with me. And I used to bring I'll bring $3,000 worth of ham radio gear and antennas and my drone and a computer, and I'll do satellite tracking and don't touch
use
any
none
of
of
it.
it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Use none of it.
Mhm.
So I just stopped bringing it.
I do the
So I
same
have a
thing at
question.
cons.
How about this? One cell phone or one for work and one for personal?
Yeah, that
Ugh.
works. I don't know.
I
works
got
on
away
one.
from that on purpose.
Set it down.
But
What?
all right, so I feel like I have it different because girl pockets are terrible.
No,
I
get it.
have half of my shorts don't have front pockets.
I yell at my wife about that all the time.
It's
She's always
the
like,
worst thing ever.
"Can you hold my phone? Where's my phone?" I'm like,
I have a front
"Can-"
pocket that's like this big.
I'm like, "Can you buy yoga pants that have the cell phone
I
pocket? Because
know.
they have
No,
those now."
Yeah, I mean, Shelly has the same problem with the new bigger iPhones. They don't fit in a lot of her pockets, and there's a risk of taking it out and putting it down somewhere. But my point behind the question was, if you have two phones, you can leave work behind. You know, whether it's
yeah.
going on vacation or whether you're going to dinner, leave the work damn at home.
Yep,
and take a break.
And Lee, this is one of the ones that we have at In Guardians is that when I started, you were not allowed to have work email on your phone. Period. You weren't allowed. It wasn't even a feature. Now it's it's available, but it's optional if you want to have it. And in fact, I don't have to have work Slack on my phone if I don't want to, but I do.
I think my problem is I also work too much outside of my actual job.
Yeah.
So even if I did have a personal phone, it wouldn't matter because I mean, nonprofit and kids and the other 5 side projects I have going. So I want to also, other than the kids, I want to also ignore all of that when I go on vacation.
Yep.
Sometimes I want to ignore my kids when I'm on
I know.
vacation.
I get it. I get that.
So here, what Shelly does, and it drives me crazy, and it shouldn't. She'll leave her cell phone at home, completely.
That gives me
I'm
a
like,
panic attack.
What the hell?
Who
And
are
she's
you?
like, I don't have the relationship that you do with your phone. Damn, she's smart.
Yeah.
Any other tips? So those were my 3 that I came up with.
Just the tip.
Do you,
There was 3 of them, Larry.
there's so many.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
I just had to see how
That's
it
just
felt.
Tuesday in your world. But
I have a lot of personal ones, like keeping a schedule.
Yep.
Like I keep a schedule. I have a weird schedule with my kids, but most of the time I have to wake up at 6:30. So I wake up 6:30. They leave at 7, and I go to the gym.
But having a schedule is important.
if you can keep that, that's again like my office thing, right? And your schedule thing are probably like that works. My schedule varies from week to week so drastically.
Right.
And there's
if you travel a lot, it's hard.
there's nothing I can do about it, right?
Yeah.
Because my wife's work schedule fluctuates because she works in the healthcare field, right?
Yep.
The show schedules here fluctuates just because that's the way it is when you do 6 podcasts a week with multiple segments, like and webcam. Like every week is a new adventure.
Yes. Yeah.
For schedule. But if you can, I think it was Jason Albuquerque was telling me he was getting up at like 4:30 every morning and working out on the treadmill and listening to podcasts and books, and that was keeping a schedule, and that's important.
Yeah,
that's important.
definitely. That's definitely one of the main things that helps. And then like going to the gym. So one of the things I include in my talk is there's the two things that can naturally increase the chemicals in your brain, like your serotonin. Right?
For good. Right.
You're happy.
The good chemicals.
Like, and I like, this is one of my favorite things. I have the audience shout out like what they think those things are. So do you have like, I mean, I kind of gave you a hint, like exercise is one of them.
Yeah. Exercise is one of them.
Yeah, like what's the other thing that can increase naturally?
Sleep.
Nope.
Masturbating.
Sex.
Yes.
But I add the caveat only if you're doing it right.
Sometimes the only way you can get it right is if you do it yourself.
Yes, you're right.
It can help with insomnia too.
Yeah.
Is what I've read. As
and
well.
migraines. So don't listen to your wife.
That's right.
So one caveat on the exercise is to be smart about it. Don't go from 0 to running a marathon.
Yeah. Like I
Particularly
recently.
as you get. Yeah.
Now the question is, if you're doing it right, is sex also exercise?
Yeah. Oh yes. Of
Yes.
course.
Right.
Yes.
Of course.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has
so
different.
you can get your twofer in, right?
You can get your sex and exercise
Counts.
in one.
You get double dose.
Yes.
One shot.
3 furs on you, but 2 for sure.
Well played, Lee. Well played. Paul's in it for a 4-fer.
Yeah. I also have to say I really like the fact that I can talk about mental health and not lose my sense of humor.
Yes.
Like a lot of people think that you have to be like super serious when you're talking about like
No.
no, fuck that.
I think it's better if it's
like
more.
I'm not gonna change who I am just because like I have issues.
But being a non-clinician, isn't laughter really good for you? Isn't laughter really good for
It
you?
is, in my professional medical opinion.
My unprofessional medical opinion, right? We could take us down another road and talk about like supplements and other things. I mean,
yeah, you could. Yeah.
So I'll share something about myself. So like ADHD is common in our field.
Also,
and
very.
One of my sons, when the doctors were talking to him about his ADHD, I'm like, my wife was like, are you with us? And I'm like, I don't know if they're talking about him or me, because I'm lost here right now, right? And so what I started taking magnesium.
Okay.
And I don't know, everything I've read said is totally safe. And actually, my poor son, like I'll use his doctor as kind of like my like proxy doctor. And I'm like, so if you had ADHD, like I was reading, like, is magnesium cool and is it safe for children? And what about adults? Like, and he's like, no, it's totally good. It's something you should try, right? And if you're having trouble sleeping, that's another
Melatonin.
thing he says melatonin is absolutely. Now, this is my son's pediatrician. I'm just the proxy here, right?
Yep.
He said
this is not official medical advice.
Not official medical advice.
Just to let all the listeners know.
I'm just telling you what a medical professional told me. Take that for what's worth. Magnesium is okay. Melatonin says totally safe because it's a chemical your body produces naturally. So if you're having trouble sleeping, again, not sleeping can contribute greatly to a negative impact to your mental health.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
But so I started taking magnesium, and I find it really helps me. Again, it's not everyone. I'm not saying that you should go take that kind of stuff.
Again,
but
great peer support recommendation.
Right. That's just, again, I read on the internet. I tried to validate that with a medical professional. And then, So we're off to the races. And I'm like,
for sure,
buying it on Amazon now. And I got just one that works really well. I'm like, so far, so good, until it has some heinous side effect on me.
Right.
Which I find
there comes a third arm.
When we talk about health or mental health in general, there are supplements and other things you take, right, to stay awake. We drink caffeine, and we may take some kind of vitamins or what, like
sleep aids, or you should totally try colloidal silver.
What is that?
It's like a silver in solution that you consume.
That's not the thing that makes you poop gold, right?
No.
Okay.
If you do it enough, you actually turn blue.
Oh.
Damn it. Don't ask questions next time.
No, just take this pill. It's fine.
It's fine. Larry said it was fine. Dr. Larry says take this pill.
Yep.
Yeah, but I hate this. A lot of those supplements have side effects, and usually I don't find out about until like 3-4 months in, and I'm like, "What is going on?
Why is my poop purple?"
Yeah,
exactly.
I hate it when that happens.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
But anyway, magnesium has been. I thought of that when we were going to talk about mental health.
Yeah,
Like it's actually been helping the focus and whatever.
Now the question is, if it's a mental health thing and it's magnesium, is it purely psychosomatic or is it actually help? Or do you just think it helps?
It's a good question.
Who
It's a good
cares? It
question.
works.
Does it matter?
Exactly. Who cares? It works.
It works.
Yeah.
Right?
Help,
Even if it
help.
is psychosomatic.
If you want to rub a crystal and you feel better about it, all for it. I'm all for it.
It worked for Sam. Sam's all about the
Whatever.
crystals.
I
and I'm
talked
like,
to her
dude,
about it. I did talk to her about
works,
it.
Right?
Yeah.
I brought a salt lamp home, and my wife was like,
right.
what is that?
That reminds me, our salt lamp in our bedroom hasn't been on for weeks. What the hell?
And that's also a hard thing that I'm having to deal with is because people want to give talks about their personal experiences and different things at these
oils.
At these villages, and there's a difficult line to draw because you have to think about your audience, right?
Yeah.
We have a very scientific, facts-driven
Absolutely,
audience.
you're absolutely
It's
correct.
difficult for most people to try alternative medicine or alternative therapies or whatever. So it's a difficult line to
It is.
to draw in what we actually offer in our villages.
Right, because we tend to be very skeptical about everything and very scientific about it as well. And my wife, being in a medical background, is very scientific about it. And she, even more than many in our field, is skeptical about any of that.
Yeah.
She's like, CBD, that's a crock. Magnesium, like all this stuff, like everything is a scam to her, which is one of the things I love about her too, is that she just always is skeptical. And I'm like, I do security, like that's like my mindset as well, right?
But you know what? I tried it, and it worked for me. So I'm going to keep doing it.
And
Sure.
I think you got to take a risk-based
Teach their
approach.
own.
Yeah.
That's true.
If you're going to do something big, you're going to take on a big exercise program, get a personal trainer, somebody who's in your age bracket. You don't want something to work out. They just don't know what can happen.
Lee, is this a case of ask me how I know this?
Now hold on.
Yes. Well, actually, my personal trainer is also in his 50s, and he says, "Are you going to be seeing stars?" Yes. Then you need to sit. You're going to go away for a while. I'll be here when you get back.
Now, Lee, along those lines, many of us, we talked about healthy things that you can do. Some of us have some unhealthy things that contribute positively to our mental health.
You're right.
Right? My
Absolutely.
wife gave up, as I drink and smoke a cigar, my wife gave up very early on, where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be cranky and miserable if I don't have a cigar at least every once in a while. Like when we're on vacation, I'm like, it's fine. I don't need to have a cigar. I'm not addicted to it. I just like, I don't even think about it. Like we're off doing something else. But I like to relax, have some port, Lee, or something like that, and a spirit. And that to me, and I get this from Stogie Santa, who was a personality on our and a host on our Stogie Geek show. And he said, you know what? He's like, I'm a miserable bastard if I don't have a cigar on a regular basis. He's like, it really greatly contributes to my mental health. And I'm not saying you should go do like unhealthy things or promote children doing unhealthy things.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. But there's a lot of us that are like, you know what? If an occasional cigar or a regular cigar helps you, drinking within moderation.
Unwind, relax.
Drinking within moderation.
That's the key, though. It's everything within moderation.
And I found like here in the studio, we have the luxury we can smoke here in the studio. Outside of the studio, I don't really smoke cigars anymore. Like even when we're like in the summertime, I do. Like when we're on the deck having a family party, I'll have a cigar. But like outside of that, I'm not going to my workshop anymore having a cigar at night. I'm not like, if I'm not going to work that day, I don't have a cigar. And like that's my kind of relaxation here in the studio, and my luxury I look forward to is like I get to sit and have a cigar, right? And I think all of us will find our kind of things like that, again, in moderation, that help you relax, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, even like exercise. If you are, if it's something that is going to interfere with your daily activities, say like you cannot make that meeting because you have to be at the gym for 2 hours, like that is not healthy.
Right.
Like I understand exercise is healthy, but everything in moderation. You can definitely overdo being healthy. If
it's
you
true.
like, I'm not overdoing being healthy, but I'm just saying some people can. But yeah, it's definitely everything. Not everything. Most things in moderation are good for your mental health, I think.
For sure. Anything else?
Don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up for a good vice. I mean,
Yeah.
No, you're right, Lee. That's very summarized very, very well in that sentence.
And Lee, on the diet, what was the phrase? Own your cheats.
Yes. Definitely own your cheats. Own if you're gonna go off, own it. And then
I had onion rings yesterday. It's like the first major carb thing I've had in 3 weeks.
And I bet they were delicious, weren't they?
This voice is amazing. Yeah, they were delicious.
And then you hated yourself afterwards, right?
I did not too much. Really? No, not too much.
One thing that we actually used here at Security Weekly, and we learned this from many years of SANS as well when we did it with SANS, is an epic mealtime. When I say epic mealtime, I mean you go to a really nice place. Mm-hmm. An epic mealtime is at least $100 a person, if not double that, or maybe a little more. Right? And you can't do that every week or even every month, all right?
No.
But that's reserve those special times.
Yes.
We've got some great memories here at Security Weekly. Great memories of Larry and I at SANS with a lot, SANS instructors as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean that time I left my credit card in the hotel room? And we were at a
sorry guys, I forgot my wallet.
And we were at what, a $600 per person sushi.
So many stories.
Yeah. See?
But I find that that really helps.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah. One more thing I want to plug. I'm not associated with them at all, but I did take the class. There's a mental health first aid class you can take, which I have to say was phenomenal. One of our long-term strategy goal things for mental health hackers is to get as many people as we can to go to these and get as many of them run at large corporations as we can. It's basically like first aid, but for mental health.
What do you mean by that? If someone's in a bad mental place, how to help them?
Yes, okay. Exactly. What to tell them as far as they have this acronym. It's ALGE. It's assess if they're suicidal, and giving them different advice and when to seek professional help, right? Because obviously you're just triaging, right? You're not the doctor that's going to save their lives. You're the person giving them CPR so that the professionals can come in and take them away, right? Yep. So hands down, one of the best classes I've taken.
That's great.
And it was free where I was at.
I feel like once you gain some experience, you're better at dealing with those situations when you have a friend or coworker or someone who's having a breakdown. Right? The first few times, you're like, I have no idea what to do. It's only through experience and making mistakes, which could be costly to your friend or your coworker, right? That you learn how to deal with that.
Yes.
Great that you can teach people that are just coming into the workforce as an example, what to do if your friend or coworker's having a
if they're having a rough time.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like a great thing to be able to bring to some of the villages.
Yes, that's on my list of things. So
what is the organization going to do in the future?
That's one of them.
What's the roadmap?
The future is Saturday.
The future is Saturday. Yeah, we're going to be at Layer 8, and we're at B-Side San Antonio. So one of my board members, Megan Roddy, is she has Asperger's, and she is. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't get anything done. But she is running the village at B-Side San Antonio on the same day I'm running at Layer 8. So we have enough stuff that we can do it. And we're doing massages, and we're running. One of my board members is a certified yoga instructor. So we're doing yoga in the morning, and we have talks, and we have fidget things and a whole bunch of stuff to do. So that's what we're currently doing. Future plans would be running and I would love to become a trainer. It's a very from what I talked to the instructor when I took it, a very strenuous week of taking courses to be able to teach the class. It's just
to teach how to do the mental health first aid.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Yeah, to do the mental health first aid. It's a lot of material, but I highly recommend it. And there's also a thing that you can do in most states called, I'm going to mess this up. It's a certified peer support specialist where, if a counselor hasn't had personal experience in an issue, say it's something related to PTSD or something related to, major depressive, issues, they can, you go through this strenuous training and they can bring you in to talk to people about your personal struggles. Because you can talk to a therapist and they know a whole lot, counselor, therapist, psychologist, whatever. But they don't have that experience when
Right,
it comes
they
down to
necessarily
it.
haven't
I
been
see.
through it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they do their part, and they can bring in the certified peer specialist to be like, okay, well, this person went through it.
Yep. To accompany the
You can
professional.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Here's what's worked for them, and they want to talk to you.
Yep. So I would love to become one of those, because I've also like, just to prove people wrong and piss them off, I wanted to just like get a PhD in psychology. Super close to actually going and doing that. But then you realize like you're not practicing, and I have 3 kids and I'm a single mom. Probably isn't going to happen. So yeah.
Other priorities.
Other priorities.
Other priorities.
Sure.
Yeah.
At least for the next couple of years, right?
Yeah, for a while. Yeah. So those are some of our long-term plans. We've done so far. I think we're up to 7 or 8 different conferences at this point,
Nice.
and we're just going to keep on doing it.
We would like to ask people who are interested in sponsoring to contact you as
definitely.
well.
Yeah. We have 6 board members. None of us want a salary. We've written it in that we don't want a salary. I just don't want to go broke like running this.
Right.
And most of the money honestly goes to massage therapists, because a lot of the other stuff that we do is fairly cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I can spend. It's the funnest Amazon shopping trip ever, I have to say. It's buying coloring books and fidget toys.
Mm-hmm.
But that equals like maybe $1,000, $1,500, when massage therapists can be anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000, depending on the size of the conference. So really, a lot of the sponsorship dollars will cover that.
And all those coloring books and fidget spinners aren't single use; they can be reused for multiple. So,
Exactly. Yep. So it's the services. Like if we get yoga instructors, it's the services that they provide. So it's just me personally not going broke.
Yeah, but in all that, contributing to just the awareness of it all as well, right? It's not so much the massage therapists and yoga instructors, right? But having that there, having a presence there with those types of events and services helps raise awareness.
Yeah, because I mean, working from home and all that, I used to I still do go to a conference, and you're just surrounded by people 24/7. My brain would freak out. Like I would just have a panic attack and like have to go back to my room and cry for hours. This is kind of just a learning being shoved down your throat space, quiet music, do whatever, like chill and relax. So that's the whole main idea around it is just that's getting the word out there about mental health.
And the massage was amazing.
And the massages are pretty great.
Yeah.
Free massages. That's why we pay for them. Yeah, just come and get
awesome.
them. Yep.
And if people would like to learn more or become a sponsor, where can they go?
So we have mentalhealthhackers.org. We have @hackershealth on Twitter. We have like Instagram that I kind of keep up with, Facebook that I kind of keep up with, and then or just @me @infosister on Twitter.
Awesome.
Yep.
Mentalhealthhackers.org
Yep.
is the website.
That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That rocks.
Absolutely. Amanda, thank you so much. Well, you're sticking around. You're not going
I
anywhere.
know, I'm not going anywhere.
We got to talk about security
I'm
news.
stuck here now.
Do this podcast thing.
Yeah.
We're stealing you from Brian for the...
He did say that you can't steal me, and he would offer to pay me triple, which I feel like is probably what I'm getting paid right now to sit here.
3 times 0 is still...
I love you, Brian. I'm sorry.
We're going to negotiate after the show. With that, we'll take a short break, come back with the security news with our new host. With Amanda Berlin.
I'd buy that for $1.